Profit is not something that happens at year end. Profit must happen now and always. Profit must be baked into your business every day, every transaction, every moment. Profit is not an event. Profit is a habit.
What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I am your host, Coach Willie, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, as we jump into a new month and a new book, which we're jumping into Mike Michalowitz's book, Profit First. I know in the book he jokes all the time where he has a hard time pronouncing his last name. And I'm like, agreed. It's a long last name. Today for Profit First, as we're jumping into this first episode, we want to touch on really kind of what he talks about at the beginning of the book, of the situations in which he finds himself as he's been doing business and finds himself having an ego at times of investing all of his money into different things, having the success formula, and then realizing nothing comes out. We want to dive into a couple of those topics. So I'm actually just going to throw it right over to Ian to start out with in this awesome discussion today.
Yeah, profit is just a fun topic to talk about, because who doesn't want to think about profit? And we always think, okay, our business is profitable if we have money in the bank account. That's all that we need. But too often we forget what it takes to be profitable. So it's a complicated topic overall. But I'm going to go with that. We think we need certain things. We think if we spend money, you got to spend money to make money. That's not true. You need to spend money wisely to make money. And we don't always think about what this is really going to do to our business. And I'm going to start out with an example. So I've got a friend who has a business, and he had an opportunity kind of fall into his lap where he could buy this piece of equipment that was really, really cool. And I'll give you a little background on it. So he has a security company, and he had this 3D shooting simulator that he could buy that was used for like law enforcement training and things like that. And he always wanted to move that direction. So he was excited about it and thinking about how much fun this would be. Now, the challenge is, one, he had to purchase the equipment. Two, it wouldn't fit in his current office space, so he would have to move his office to a bigger space, incurring some more money there. So he was telling me all about how exciting it was and all these opportunities, and kind of asked my opinion on what he should do moving forward. So my initial question for him, or what I told him to do, was you need to get out a piece of paper or your computer or QuickBooks and figure out exactly how much this new equipment is going to cost you to buy it, to move into the new office space, and break that down, break that down into a 5-day work week. And I want you to tell me how much this equipment is going to cost you per day just to have it. How much money do you need to earn every day to have this piece of equipment? A few days later, he came back to me, said, okay, here's the numbers. And in my research, nobody else that has this equipment is making any money on it. So, okay, here's your lesson about profit. And I would, when I work with clients in business consulting, that's one of the questions I make them find the answer to. How much money does it cost to put your key in the door every morning? What are you spending every day that has to be spent, whether you get any revenue, any money coming in, whether you do any business? How much money are you spending? And I think that's the first part of profit. We forget how much money we're spending to simply put the key in the door.
Mhm.
And if you don't know that, there's no way you're going to run a profitable business. You're going to be saying, "Oh, I got money in my checking account, so must be doing good." Um,
Yeah.
so I guess that I'm going to turn it back. That's my first point is, do you know what you are spending? And are you spending on vanity projects like I really need this new laptop for my business? I really need the higher end specs. And boy, if I had this car, my clients would be impressed and give me more money. Um, when we just want the new car so we can put a sticker on the side with our company name on it. So spending is the first part of profit, is understanding what you're spending, and is that something which is going to be, and I mentioned this before, an MMA, a money-making activity, or is
Yeah.
it you need to spend just to run? Okay, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
No, yeah, going along with that, it's when I think of like one of my favorite, I don't know if you call it an entrepreneurship show, but it is Shark Tank. And when the sharks are up there asking questions, like we see each episode, and each person up there is up there, I don't know, 8-10 minutes during the whole thing. But if you actually like look in the background and go deeper into the show, they're standing there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, going over numbers, going over everything. So first off, complimentary to the editors that have to edit all that. But second, the biggest thing that Mark Cuban, I was watching one of his videos talking about Shark Tank, and he says the number one thing that almost guarantees that you get a deal is knowing your numbers. If you know your numbers, if you look at your income statement and the bank statements, if you look at your profits, if you look at I'm trying to think of the other one, look at all your statements to bring them together, then you know your numbers. You know how much it costs to create said product or said service. You know how much you have to pay out for the subscriptions that you have, and you know how much it costs to put a key in the door or flip on the light switch. Like when you know those exact numbers, it's a lot easier to then be able to make better conscious decisions on spending. Can you afford a laptop? Most people are like, let me check my Wells Fargo account. You look in there, oh, look, I have $1,500. I can spend half of that on a laptop. To where the people who know their numbers in their business, they're like, I have $1,500 in my bank account, but this next month we have X, Y, and Z of people we have to pay. The money might come in, but let's put some aside so that we can start building up to getting that laptop so they don't buy it, right? And so when you know your numbers, you make better decisions, not because the money is different, but simply because you have a more clear plan and vision about what's actually going on.
Yeah, definitely true. You have to understand what the whole picture is and what the long-term ramifications are. If you've got a yearly subscription that's going to be a couple $1,000s coming up, just because you have $1,000 in your account now, it doesn't mean you will in 2 weeks when that one comes due. And I'm going to say with that, you kind of got me thinking on a certain line here. So as we're looking at expenses and profits, and your revenue minus expenses equals profits. That's the basic one, and that's still relatively true. And we'll get into the formula that the book uses later on in the episodes. But expenses is kind of a big one that I like to talk about. Now, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit here, Willie. So you have a goal now to lose a certain amount of weight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use an example that if you see a piece of pie that's 500 calories, is it easier to cut out that piece of pie and save 500 calories or go to the gym and burn off 500 calories?
Oh, 100% just not eat the pie.
Yeah. If you're looking at losing weight, watching what you eat has a much greater effect than how many calories you burn at the gym. Now, they're both important, don't get me wrong. But you are not going to burn off extra calories that you ate by splurging at the all-you-can-eat ice cream bar. You're not going to, that work at burning off calories is not going to make up the wasteful eating that we do. But we get into that same pattern, and the author talks about this. Notice I say the author instead of trying to remember how to pronounce his last name. So the author says is that too often when we see the money not in our accounts, our initial response is, we need to go earn more money. We need a new client. We need to sell something more. And that's going to solve our problem. And he goes into how that doesn't. And he gives a great example of his yard care guy, who he loves him. He does a great job. He rakes up his leaves in the fall in the Northeast. Good business model. But then his yard guy came to him and said, hey, I saw your gutters were kind of full of leaves. For a little bit extra, I can clean out your gutters for you. That perfect. Here's some easy, more money. He can expand into gutters now as well as raking leaves. Then he's doing the gutters and kid says, hey, your shingles are getting kind of bad on your roof in a few spots. For a little more, I can fix your shingles for you. And said, hey, this sounds great. This is how we look at business. I'm doing this. Oh, I can add this. I can add this. I can add this. And I can make more money. And I'll be rich and famous then. But he said, well, this guy now has to buy equipment to clean out those gutters. He's got to buy ladders and all these things. Now, the shingles is a bigger leap. He's got to buy safety equipment. He's got to buy materials. He's got to buy new tools for it. He's got to do some training to be able to do it safely and know he can do a good job. And now he's spending thousands of dollars for a job that's going to earn him a couple $100. And is that a good business model to spend $2,000 to make $100? No. But how often do we do that in our business? We say, I will have a profitable business if I can just get one more client. I can just upsell one more thing. I can add one more line. And we get stuck in what turns out to be a downward spiral of spending more money to reinvent ourselves, retrain ourselves, buy new equipment so we can chase that little bits of increased revenue.
Yeah,
and I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
It's interesting. We were talking in the green room beforehand about this. One of the things that Mike brings up is that when he was talking with his accountant and he thought he was doing great with the different things he was selling and all the revenue generating things, as he was talking with his accountant typed up the numbers, printed a piece of paper and said, hey, you got there's either $1,500 or $15,000 in revenue. Great job. And Mike was excited about it for a couple of seconds and then thought, well, where's the cash? I want to be able to spend it. So he felt super dumb, but asked his accountant, so where's the cash that we can spend? And his accountant gave him a puzzled look and said, well, this is an accounting profit. This is you're making a profit on paper. But the money that this is the money that you would have, you're going to be spending, or in your case, you've already spent the money. And Mike is just like, well, this is kind of dumb. I want to be able to have cash to get to, goodness gracious, what I'm looking for, cash to go celebrate and to go get the things that he wants for his business. And so then he came up with the profit formula, thinking about profits first rather than just expenses. And so it comes back to where we put in our, like, when you know the numbers and know what's going on, are you actually getting cash flow? Like, are you actually making a profit, or is it just a profit on paper, right? You got to be very clear on the goal that you want. Because if you just want a profit on paper, use the GAAP system, the general accounting principle, and just go with that. And you can have a profit, but no cash on hand. But if your goal is to have cash on hand and have your expenses covered, then you got to start thinking differently and take a different route.
Absolutely. And I think that's a challenge or dilemma, the horns of a dilemma, that old saying. Do you look at the paper numbers and see if you have a profit when you may not actually have money in your pocket? Or do you say, hey, I've got money in my pocket, so it must be good, when in actuality your business is floundering? There's got to be a better system out there. There's got to be a way to reconcile those two. That's called foreshadowing for a future episode when we go through the actual formula set up in the book and say how that should be. So keep listening here.
Stay tuned for next week.
Yeah. But, I had a client I worked with a while ago. He had a body shop dealing with hail damage, and he thought he was doing pretty good. So one of the first things I did was sit down with his numbers, and I went through his QuickBooks numbers, and I kind of reorganized things into some different categories in a way that made it a little easier to see where it was. And this guy, first of all, needed a really good CPA. That was my first recommendation to him. He had commingled some funds, which was not a good situation, but he didn't realize he was actually losing about $40,000 a year in his business. You'd think you would notice that, but he thought it was all doing pretty good because he had checks coming in, he had money in the bank, but he didn't realize how much he was really losing in that. And it kind of hit him to realize that if this keeps up, his considerable assets would be gone by the time his daughter got to college age, and he would not be able to afford to send her to college unless there was a change in that. So understanding your numbers is so critical, and understanding your real numbers, not your numbers on paper and not your daily snapshot of your bank account. It takes a deeper understanding of where you're really at, and understanding when I spend money, I'm kind of come back to this principle. If I spend money, how much money am I going to get as a return on the dollar I spend? And the new fancy laptop is probably not going to give you any return on your investment. It's fun. It's a nice ego one, but it's not going to give you any return on your investment. Instead, advertising campaign, well, it might. I had a friend who had a billboard advertising campaign, and he stopped that one because there was absolutely no way to track if he got business from that billboard. Now, that might be right for some businesses. For his, he felt it wasn't. So I know we're kind of staying on the same topic of what you're spending money on, but I think that's, excuse me, I think that's the first most important, easiest thing to go through is where you're spending your money, because we want profits. That's the title of this book, Profits First. And there's only two ways to increase your profit. You either increase revenue or decrease expenses. That's it. It's as simple as that. And decreasing expenses, easiest way is to stop spending money. My wife tells me that all the time. If we want our bank account to look better, you need to stop spending money. I know, but there's the new toy and the Happy Meal. I need to get the whole collection. I'm
with you on that. When they had the Pokemon cards going through, I'm just like, we need to go to McDonald's a little bit more.
Yeah. The kids really want McDonald's today, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But what are those
toys disappear?
Yeah. Yeah. Side note: I was cleaning out our garage a few years ago, and I had like this big tub in the garage that was like 4 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot, that was full of nothing but McDonald's toys.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. Yes, I know if there's any nutritionists on here, my kids are already grown. It's too late to fix that. Don't comment on that part. But how much money did I waste on some of these things? And what are we? Oh, yeah.
No, please finish your thought.
Oh, I was just kind of finishing. Just what are we wasting money on, and what can we cut out that's not necessary as the first step?
Yeah, for those listeners, here's some more practical application type stuff that you can use. Because I know, just like anything, it's easy to say, don't spend your money and save it and invest it into some things that either in yourself or things that are going to grow. But when it comes like actual tangible things that to start doing and taking action on, it seems to be missing. But let's share with you, the audience, some of those things. Something that me and my wife do is whenever a decision to buy something comes, especially on Amazon, we get a lot of Amazon packages here, is to wait at least a day. Because to wait at least a day, at least 24 hours. So if my wife comes to me, came to me today saying, hey, this looks cool. Is this something that we want to buy? I'm just like, that looks really cool. Let's wait a day and see if we have those same feelings tomorrow. And it's surprising how many times it's been to where about, I'd say 70%, which is a massive percentage, but 70% of the things that we thought we wanted, we just don't need. We just thought it would be cool in the moment because we saw it on an advertisement and we imagined ourselves using it in our house and it being the next big thing to help us save time. But 70% of the time for us, it just didn't work out. Like we came to that product the next day and it's like, nah, we're good. Giving that time and space to hold on to the emotional buying, even though I'll tell you this, most of the time it doesn't feel like emotional buying. Wait 24 hours, it's emotional buying. When you put the time in there and wait a day, you actually just stick to the things that work instead of just buying things that don't. So a great way that my wife and I have found is to just wait 24 hours if you want to buy something. And then on big purchases, things that are massive, we say wait 7 days, wait a week, because you need a little bit more time to be able to release the emotions off of that one. So something that's worked for us and hopefully can work for you. Give time between wanting to do something and just see where it goes.
Definitely true. Now, Amazon is a stickler for many things, but the Amazon driver actually stopped by yesterday at our house and knocked on the door. Said, yeah, I didn't have a delivery today, so I wanted to make sure you're still okay. Sad thing there. But I'm going to second what you said, especially on a personal basis. For personal finances, wait 24 hours. I'm going to expand that even more on a business side. And for business purchases, you should see a need before you even look at a product. You shouldn't be seeing an ad pop up on Google and say, oh, that would help my business, and go there to buy it. You should be saying, what does my business need? Where am I losing money? What systems would save me money? Where am I spending too much time? What equipment is out of dated and not doing what it could be doing? Now, you have to be researching. You have to stay up on top of things to know what products are out there and see, because we don't know what we don't know. We may not realize there's a better way to I was going to say skin a cat. Now I'll say the better way to skin a cat than I encourage people not to skin cats in any way, but there may be a better way to do something. I know you're kind of our IT technical guy here, and you've come across some programs that help to create shorts out of our longer form videos that saves a lot of time. Has been a very wise investment, because you researched, you saw a product, you saw how that would help us. But as a business, we need to make sure that we're not just jumping into, hey, this will give me, 1.036% greater efficiency in digging holes than the old shovel that I was using. So I better do it. Well, first of all, see if that's a problem, because that 1% efficiency may be irrelevant compared to a 30% efficiency you're losing in a different area. So you need to always be on top of your business and realize where you're spending money and or time that could be more efficient. Then you look for a solution to fix that problem. But if you don't know the problem first, there's a lot of really shiny solutions out there that may not actually fix problems that we have. They create their problem first just so they can find a way to fix it. So understand your business, and you've got to know your numbers for that, especially dollars, but also your time. Because if you can spend your time more efficiently, then you're saving money by doing that. Again, you're cutting out expenses that you wouldn't have by being more efficient. So you really have to have that background knowledge. You have to know your business. You have to know your numbers. You have to know where your weak points, where your pain points are. Then start looking at where to spend money on those. And ask yourself, is this going to save me money? Is this going to increase my profit by saving me money? Or is this another shiny object that will make me feel way more cool as I walk into the country club with my specially Champion Reeds branded cover over my golf clubs?
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Gold stitched. Boy, that would help my business get so much bigger.
Because everyone's looking at your golf clubs, right? It's as we're wrapping up the end of this episode, the idea, as we've been talking, of one, the you brought up something interesting, and it's continued to stick with me, which is like, it's easier to just not do the bad thing than it is to try to do the bad thing. I'll give an example to clarify it. To do the bad thing and then try to repair it afterwards. Your example you gave, a piece of pie that's like 500 calories, which is a very heavy, dense piece of pie. But to avoid that piece of pie, you don't have to worry about those 500 calories. It's just you don't take it on. But if you eat the piece of pie, then you got to go to the gym, burn the calories. And so it's not just eating the pie and getting 500 calories. If you have the goal of losing weight, you also have to go to the gym, and to burn 500 calories, you got to do some intense stuff for 500 calories, like an hour and a half to do like very, very intense stuff, or you can do mild intense stuff for even longer than that. So it's just like, do you want to eat the pie and have to spend 2 hours of your day doing something else, or just avoid it, get a glass of water to have it fill your stomach, and then you just saved 2 hours, right? It's not just a single thing in which that we get consequence for. It's that the choices that we make lead to other things. And something else that was the time thing when I was talking about my wife and I, 24 hours or the 7 days, I thought about that as with health. Because something that I also do is whenever I get a craving for something, and I'll tell you what, I'm on 75 hard right now. I get cravings all the time for sweets and stuff. But what I do is I wait 20 minutes. Every single time when I have that craving and I just drink a glass of water and wait 20 minutes, the craving goes away. And I'm like, that is so interesting that craving goes away. So it's, when you put like a pause time limit on not just health, not just finances, but you can go into different things in your life, in your business, personal life, relationships and stuff. When you have that pause, it actually might enhance your ability to get the result that you want, because then you don't have to partake in that bad thing and have to deal with the result after. I think it was said at one point, it's just like, it's better to prepare and prevent than to repair and repent. When you prepare and prevent things that are going on, your life's good and you don't have to worry about the extra time that goes into it. So with all that being said, just put on some wait time on the things that you're doing, and you'll be surprised that the problems that usually happen will lessen. And you just won't have to spend the time dealing with the consequences afterwards.
Yeah. Put on some wait time so you don't put on some weight.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we said is a crucial thing. And this is something my wife and I remind ourselves all the time. There's no such thing as a once in a lifetime opportunity. There is no deal on Amazon that is a once in a lifetime deal to buy this wicket. There's no business deal that's a once in a lifetime deal that you have to act on in the next 15 minutes, or else you will never have the chance again. Once we get set in our mind that these things don't exist, if we prepare and prevent, we will find more opportunities. More things will come up. We were on a webinar yesterday, and our friend and oftentimes guest, John Kovacs Jr., mentioned a story where he was talking to somebody at this gathering about one of his goals of setting up a pearl farm in the Philippines as a way of helping helping the economy.
I think it was oyster.
Yeah, oyster farm. Okay, no, oysters have pearls sometimes. Yeah, one of those farms. But his idea was it was a way to build the local community and lift people up and provide opportunities. And as he was telling this person said, "Hang on just a second." And she ran over, grabbed her phone, came back 2 or 3 minutes later and handed him the phone and says, "Here, talk to this guy." And it was a guy who said, "Hey, I hear you want to use some of my land." John could have said, "Yes, great, sign me up, let's do it." And probably lost a whole bunch of money because he wasn't prepared at that point to do it. Hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for sharing this story, but he wasn't. It was a great opportunity that was not a once in a lifetime opportunity that he would never face again. And he had to jump in and go all in and spend all his money getting it set up, or else he would never see it again. The time will come again when he's prepared, when he's ready for it. Those shiny objects are going to destroy our profits because we're going to be spending money on things that just we are not prepared to do. So be prepared, know your numbers, know what you're trying to accomplish. Without that knowledge first, profits will not stay with you. You will not make profits. You will not continue to. You will be like the author who made a whole ton of money selling a business, and then a year later didn't have enough money to pay his taxes and had no idea how they're going to even pay their rent. In fact, didn't even have enough money to pay the accountant who told him how much taxes he owed, because he didn't understand how money really works. So I'm going to close with that. We need to know how money works. There are rules of money. There are laws of money. There are a lot of great books on that. Look at some of our previous podcasts. Richest Man in Babylon is a great one. But continue listening here to Profit First, because if we don't understand what it takes to actually have a profit in a business, if it doesn't become a habit, and I love that in the quote we read at the beginning, your profit needs to be a habit, not a year-end goal, not a 5-year plan, not a piece of paper showing that you have a profit somewhere in the ether or on paper, but not in your bank account. Profit has to become a habit, and how you run your business is going to be that habit. And I'm going to close out, as we are a little bit over today, with another of my favorite quotes. Your goals show who you want to be. Your habits show who you are. So if we don't have a habit of profit, it's just a goal, which is a dream if it's not going to be put into habits. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Yeah, well said. And that wraps this episode up, you awesome champions. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast, where you can find us on all the major podcast platforms. As well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll be able to find a link to our socials, our link to the podcast, as well as everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to be awesome, continue to take the action necessary, and always remember, put profit first and do the things necessary to get the desired goal that you are going for. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.